Hello. In today's class, we are looking at an English lesson. So if you turn to the English chapter of your notebook, we have covered the parts of speech. You'll hear more about those today. But we are up to the lesson on capital letters, capitalization rules. And this starts on page 6. If you have not watched the assembly video, I want you to stop this video and go back and watch that one, because that explains to you how to cut out the pieces for this memory piece and also a little bit of information about it. So if you haven't done that already, you need to stop this video, go back and do that one, and then come back to this one. But if you have watched that video, you will have the pieces of this memory piece with the capitalization rules cover, and then 8 of these tabs. They're like index tabs. So we want to start with this one, and I have made it so that I can just pull this piece, the piece that I'm working on. I'll just pull it down here and enlarge it, and then when we get ready to assemble these, I'll have all of them still on this page. So if you'll bear with me, I'll make this work on my end. So the first capitalization rule that we're looking at is for proper nouns. And if you recall, the symbol that we're using for a noun is a dark blue rectangle. So we're talking about those proper nouns, specific people, places, and things. So if you're using the symbols, if that system works for you, we are talking about the proper forms of these nouns. So let me give you some examples. First, let me give you the rule. The rule says, and I want you to write this down. Remember, these are to be memorized, so that anything in a memory piece is to be committed to memory. Capitalize, and let me just be sure that you know what that means. That means to use the uppercase form of a letter. Capitalize the first letter of a proper noun. And I'll give you some examples for each of these. An example of a proper noun: person. Any person's name is a proper noun. I like to use names of presidents because those are ones that we all know. John Kennedy was one of our famous presidents. Notice that I capitalize the first letter of the first name and the last name. That's a person. A place: Tennessee. You capitalize the first letter of the proper noun. A proper thing. These are a little bit harder to think about, but one of my favorite is this one. We have come to refer to any tissue as a Kleenex, but Kleenex is actually a brand name. So that would be a thing. It's not living, it's not a place you can visit. It's a proper noun that is a thing. So brand names, specific businesses, those kinds of things, specific products, are capitalized. I also want you to know that this is not a noun, but remember, pronouns are versions of nouns. They take the place of a noun. We're using this symbol. You always capitalize I. If you are referring to yourself, as I, you would always capitalize that. And that's one of those errors that is so obvious. If you write an essay and do not capitalize I, that's going to stand out to the reader. So you need to get in the habit of capitalizing I. I do want to show you one more in the proper noun category. An event, which is technically a thing, World War II. And the reason I wanted to show you this example is because of those Roman numerals. You'll always capitalize the Roman numerals. So World War II is another example of a proper noun. Okay, let me be sure I've added everything. I'm looking at my notes, and I do believe that's everything. So I'll bring this piece back up to the top. When we get ready to stack them, we'll put it in its proper order. Oh, it's not going to let me do that. Here, let's try one more thing. I'm sorry that this takes me a while. Yes, here we go. So let me bring that one back up here and get the next piece that we want to do. And I'll bring it down. This is the piece on titles of works. And works are movies, songs, books, anything that someone has written. So here's the rule on titles of works. You capitalize all significant words. I learned this rule as all important words. Of books, movies, stories, songs, poems, etc. Paintings, anything that someone has written or drawn, those are works of art, works of literature. We call those works. So you capitalize those. And here are some sub points here. You always, it doesn't matter what they are, you always capitalize first and last words. Always. You do not capitalize articles. And you guys know what articles are. Those are the three words that go with this symbol. A, an, and the. You do not capitalize those words unless they're first or last. You do not capitalize prepositions. And I'm going to clarify that. Small prepositions. If there are 5 or more letters, you're going to capitalize them. But the small ones like as and of, you do not capitalize those. And an example or the symbol that we're using for the preposition is that arrow that is pointing to the right. So small prepositions do not get capitalized in titles. Or conjunctions, or small conjunctions. And remember, our conjunctions are the bridges. And I'm going to shrink my handwriting a little bit here. I'm running out of room. Conjunctions are those green bridges. Boys fan are the 7 that we've learned. I want you to know that there are other conjunctions, but those are the ones that we're focusing on. Okay, so here is an example or a couple of examples. This, let me just use this one. A Tale of Two Cities. It's a very good story. If you've never read this book, it has a lot of history in it about the French Revolution. So we capitalize the first word and the last word regardless. It doesn't matter what it is. And then all significant words. Of is a preposition. It's a little preposition. So you don't capitalize of. Let me put the symbol in there. So knowing these parts of speech helps you decide which capital letters you need to use. Of does not need to be capitalized because it's one of those little prepositions. If it's a big preposition like through, then you would capitalize it. 4 letters or less, you don't need to capitalize. Okay, here is another example. I've never heard of this book, but I like this book. The Complete Idiot's Guide to Sewing. There's a possessive noun. So you may be thinking, why did she capitalize the? She just told me don't capitalize articles. That's true unless it happens to be the first word. And the last word gets capitalized. And all of the important, significant words. To is a preposition, a little one, so we don't capitalize that one. This takes some practice with titles. That's a little bit tricky, so you want to pay very close attention to when you write titles. Okay, let me move this one back up. Hopefully, yes. And then we'll bring in the next rule that we need to cover, and that is names of relatives. And I'll tell you up front, this one drove me crazy in school. I don't know. Some things just don't make sense to my mind, and this is one of them. But here we go. Names of relatives. You capitalize relatives' titles. Whoops. Let's put that apostrophe there. Relatives' titles when they're with a name. For example, Uncle Joe, Grandma Mary. So you see how, because I have used the person's Christian name, I use a capital letter for the title. So that's one time that you capitalize the names. Here's another time that you capitalize the name. If you use the title capitalize when the title is used as the name. For example, my mother's name is Catherine, but I don't call her Catherine because she's my mother. I call her Mom or Mama. My dad was Daryl. I never in my lifetime called him Daryl. I called him Daddy. So if you're using those as the name of the person, Mom, Dad, Papa, then you would capitalize because that is the person's name. Instead of saying Catherine, I say Mom. I'm using the respectful title for my mother. You do not capitalize after a possessive pronoun. And remember, we learned what possessive pronouns are. If you need to look back at your chart, that's fine. If I say my mama, in this situation, I am not calling her mama, I'm talking about her. She is my mama. You would not use a capital letter. And let me put the symbols in and you'll see what I mean. My is a possessive pronoun. Pronouns we're using, remember, they take the place of nouns. So we're using that light blue symbol. And then here is the dark blue noun. Mama is a noun. Mama is a person. Okay. So let me put in another example. Our, whoops, let's use black ink. Our dad. Dad is the person, dad is the noun. And I'm not sure that, nope. I'm just not having much luck today, am I? Let's try it again. I'm very tired today, and I think that has a lot to do with it. Dad is your noun. Our is your possessive pronoun. And when you have that pattern, you do not have capital letters. You might be asking yourself about the symbols for these up here. And we would count Grandma Mary as one person. Uncle Joe would be one person, as would Mom, Dad, and Papa. So you can see that when I put that possessive in there, that changes things considerably. Names of relatives. This would apply also with cousins, any of those relatives. And I apologize for the phone. Our phone rings all the time. I'm sure you've noticed that. Okay, let's take a look at one more and then I'm going to stop the video. I don't want these to get so long. I'll do them in two parts, but I do want to get one more. And this is the rule about titles of people. It's kind of sort of like relatives, but this is going to be people that you maybe do not know. The rule is similar to that of relatives, but let me give you the actual rule and then we'll look at some examples. First rule that you need to know here, you capitalize titles with names, just like we did with relatives. So for example, President Kennedy. President is his title, Kennedy is his name. And that would count as one noun. Not quite that big. So President Kennedy is one person. You capitalize the title and the name. Another one would be Dr. Ali. There is the title, Doctor, and the name, last name is Ali. Some other examples would be Governor Smith, Senator Mason, Madam Secretary. That's not a name, but it is a title. Mother Teresa. That was probably a relative name. But any title that's used with the name, you will capitalize. You will also capitalize titles if you're speaking to the person. This one's a little tricky, so I'll give you an example. For example, can you see me today? You also put a comma if you're speaking directly to a person. Doctor. So in this case you will capitalize because doctor is sort of the name of the person that you're talking to. That one gets capitalized. Even though it doesn't specify the doctor's last name, I'm speaking directly to the person. So that is a capital letter. Here's a do not. Do not capitalize general, common, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. Common nouns. How can I say this? If the title, let's just say common nouns. Here's an example. I'll give you two examples. Our senator voted against the bill. Senator is the title, but it's not specific, and I'm not speaking to the senator. It also follows the possessive our, so you would not capitalize. Let me put that in there for you. There's the noun. Here is the possessive pronoun. Just like with relatives, when you have that pattern, you're not going to capitalize. Okay. Senator is a common noun there. It's not naming a specific person. Here's another one. Let me think of one that we haven't used. Senator, president, doctor, professor. The math professor is very smart. Okay. so I had lots of professors in college. This does not specify which one. So you notice that I did not capitalize. It is a common noun. Titles of people. And I can already tell you that no, that's right. So let me resize this one. And I am going to stop the video because it's getting very long, and I'll see you in the next video. We'll finish this up very soon.